Hello, hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to get started. This presentation is called Authentic Alignment, Freedom from Triggers, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive right in. Welcome. My name is Michelle Holmes. I am a workplace wellness consultant, author, speaker, and podcast host of the Flourish podcast. Please let me know if you tune in to our podcast. I am also a mom, wife, and recovering workaholic. And so I love what I do now as an ex-engineer turned workplace wellness enthusiast, consultant, workshop facilitator, all of the good things there. I have a unique approach with what I try to do, and education is one of the main components of my practice and my company. So I love education, I love running workshops, I love teaching, so I hope you get a lot of value today with what we're going to discuss. So we have a bit of an agenda. I am going to tell you who this is for. So we'll cover that to let you know if you're going to get some value out of this presentation today, because why waste your time? Number two, what's going on when we're triggered? Number three, how our nervous system actually does get hijacked when we are triggered. And of course, I'll give you some ways to keep in touch with me at the very end if you are not familiar with what I do. So as a workplace wellness consultant, I have built my company off of this lens, this perspective of helping high achievers, high performers, unlock the wisdom of their nervous system so that they can increase their performance, create the impact they desire in the world, and of course, put an end to burnout, anxiety, self-sacrifice, some of the not so fun experiences and symptoms that people have when they typically find me and what I do. They can resonate with that. So I include my philosophy here so you can kind of get an understanding of, well, what do I believe and what do I want to teach? Where's my heart in all of this? So here's my philosophy. High achievers have so much to give. I also believe that health is our wealth. We need to prioritize our health. Healing happens by way of the nervous system. This is such a crucial foundational system in our body. It is our control center for full body, whole body, mind and spirit wellness. We want to make sure that we're really focused on the nervous system. We are never broken, and we absolutely can flourish. Okay, so who is this for? So this presentation, I called it Authentic Alignment because what I've learned in working with people, and of course in my own experience, is that we really do want to live an intentional life, and we want to be aligned with that. Where do we get off track with that alignment? Now, I talk a lot about intentional living, and I teach a lot about how we can make this possible for ourselves. But when we talk about the alignment, I think that this is a component of intentional living that is really important throughout our day-to-day. So freedom from triggers is kind of like my subtitle here, because originally this presentation was all about the nervous system, Nervous System 101. I've run this workshop in the past where I wanted to teach about the nervous system, and so we're going to do that today. But why does that matter? And so it really does come down to that alignment issue that a lot of people feel like they have sometimes of, well, I'm not taking the actions that I wish I would take, or I'm not doing the things that I say I want to do. Why is that? So I've included some examples here. If you're an overthinker, if you can identify with being stressed, overwhelmed, even discouraged with life, or maybe where you're at, that wired but tired feeling, or even feeling depressed a little bit, or in this sense of despair. If others even describe you as hot-headed or emotional, or if you feel like you really are like you're on this roller coaster of emotions, mood swings, feelings, like if your day-to-day kind of feels more like a roller coaster, if you feel like you need to please other people and sacrifice yourself, and if you are stuck in procrastination or perfectionism. These are some of the things that when I've surveyed my community, these are the things that people come to me with. So these are kind of symptoms of the overall problem that we're having. So the alignment is that really important piece. And I'm going to show you as we go through how we really do get off track, because it's not that we intentionally want to be off track. It's that we kind of get off track. Okay, so if you desire to act in alignment with who you wish to be, even on the bad days, if you want your freedom back from triggers, and if you are ready to take ownership of your own reactions, because of course, this is something that we have to desire to do for ourselves. If that sounds like you, I think you'll really get a lot of good value from what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let's just kind of set the record straight here. What is a trigger? So a trigger, you can probably think about what triggers you, but it causes something like an event or a situation to happen or exist. In our terminology, we talk about triggers quite a lot. Like we know, oh, I'm triggered, or oh, stop triggering me. But really, what is it? Okay, it's just something that kind of precedes the next thing, right? So examples here for people going on stage to speak, that can trigger us to have a panic attack or pretty high anxiety. Being in a group of friends, unable to contribute, right? Maybe you're just kind of a bit of a wallflower in this friend circle for whatever reason. Maybe your friends are pretty rambunctious, and maybe they know each other and you're the newcomer. That can trigger feelings of inadequacy or feeling invisible, right? That's a very tangible example. Noticing you're alone in life can trigger feelings of despair, right? So we have these that would even just be like a thought or something that, oh, I'm having this awareness right now, like I'm perceiving that I'm alone in life, or I'm not where I want to be. And then we start spiraling. So we've had that trigger. We may have sounds, sensory input. That's truly what the trigger actually is. It's just a sensory input. It's not good or bad. But sounds, sensory input can trigger a PTSD flashback. Watching something on the news can trigger anxiety, right? So these are the things that I think we can resonate with in our own lives if we really see and have this self-awareness of, well, where do I start to spiral? Or where do I start to get off track? Or where do I have this emotion stemming from? And so there's something that precedes that. So what's going on? The high-level overview here is that we are perceiving a threat. When we are perceiving a threat, right, if we have something, we have a thought, or we hear a sound in the examples with PTSD, right? We activate our system because we have just perceived that as a threat, whatever it may be, some sensory input. We're going into protection mode. We get activated. So when we get activated, our what system are we using? We're using our nervous system. But our thinking brain is going to go offline. And this is where people really start to get off course in terms of their alignment and in terms of, oh, well, I'm trying to be really intentional and now I'm off track because we react automatically. So when we get activated, our thinking brain goes offline and then we have this reaction. We often breach our integrity. Now, this is language that I use as a forward-facing consultant and coach. And what does this mean? So we often breach our integrity. This means that we all have different things that are important to us. But when we really look at it, we are getting off course by doing something that a lot of times we really didn't mean to do, or we wish that we didn't do it in that way. I'm thinking of, okay, when we're snarky back to someone, if somebody kind of has a bit of an attitude, we might try to live our life as a respectful, level-headed human being. We feel that attitude coming across from them, and then we have an attitude right back. That's breaching our integrity. That's going away from our alignment, our intention. Our intention is to be this respectful person. So being snarky, that doesn't really line up with our value system. And many times we internalize this as being bad. We begin to have feelings about ourselves for having this automatic reaction. Okay, so when we go through life feeling bad, or if we go through life realizing we really are unable to live according to our intention, then we separate even further from ourselves. This is called the moral wound. And that can be really damaging to people, especially if we have this high level of self-awareness where we really do examine our behavior and we really are thinking about how our reactions are impacting other people, how they're impacting us, how they're impacting and influencing our life as well. So this is incredibly damaging on both a micro and a macro level for us. This leads to having an effect on all of our relationships with our partner, our children, our friends, our coworkers, with strangers, and of course with ourselves, right? This doesn't make us feel good inside. This really kind of begins to affect our whole world. And when I say micro level, of course, I'm thinking about, okay, all of the effects on your own life. But macro level, we're thinking about, okay, well, how does the planet live? How does everyone live on this planet when they have these experiences, when they're not acting as, let's say, their highest self, when they're not acting as that? What does that lead to? Lots of problems, lots of people that are not able to go down the path of intention and alignment. Okay, so let's break this down. We have an illustration here. I just grabbed a couple images. We're going through our life, okay? We are maybe sitting down, filling out some paperwork, or studying, doing something, working on a project, and we have this threat, this little jaguar, it looks like here, who is ready to pounce. So our nervous system's job is to keep us alive. That's the primary function and role of the nervous system. So this means actually keeping us safe. many of us have heard things like the lizard brain, and so that's a pretty good way to describe it. We have this super old school protective mechanism with our nervous system, and it really is like a lizard brain. It's been around since the beginning of time. It's very important for our survival. It protects, it keeps us safe. We love that about the nervous system. So our lizard brain is always concerned for our safety. Our lizard brain remembers and learns from feeling unsafe, from perceiving a threat, let's say, and has a strong dominant fear center. That's like the core here is very strong, very dominant fear center because, hello, it's concerned for our safety. So perceived threat. We have all of these little graphics here of the ways that we can perceive threat commonly, right? We might perceive a threat from our own thoughts, something that comes into our mind. We become aware of it. We have a thought, and it feels really uncomfortable. We can have lots of different thoughts. We can have intrusive thoughts. We can have thoughts that just pop up out of nowhere. But when we have a reaction to it, we are perceiving that as a threat. Same thing with a kid crying, right? We are activated. That is some level of threat to us, right? I think about being a mom. If you hear your baby crying, you are biologically wired to do something about it, to stop it, to help the baby, right? We want to do that. But of course, we can experience that from our kids way after they're babies, from other people, of course. We see some emotion and there's some threat there. Dogs, if you have had a bad experience with a dog in the past, you might see them as a threat moving forward. Cops, this is a big one for certain individuals because there's maybe a history there. You're learning about, well, what do cops do, or how do you perceive a police officer? Fighting with our partner, being nagged or yelled at, having someone who is saying something to you that's not pleasant. And of course, objects that can be very activating to us. These are all examples of perceived threat. Now, if we look at all these examples here, and we are not, let's say, we'll take this dog, for instance. This is a really cute little corgi dog here. And if we see this dog, and maybe we're out and about on a walk, and this dog is on a walk with their owner, and this dog isn't actively growling or chasing us or anything like that, are we really in danger at that moment? No. So in many of these examples, if we're having a thought, we may perceive it as a threat, but do we have to act on the thought? No, we don't have to act on the thought. Is the thought harming us in some way? No, it could be a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's a thought we don't like, or a thought that we wish we didn't have, but we're not in danger. Same thing, if our child is crying, are we in danger? No, we're not. We're completely safe, right? We may see a police officer on the side of the road, or we may even be pulled over. But unless we have some information, some really concrete information that we should be moving away, we're in danger, like true danger here. Really what we're experiencing is we're perceiving this threat, but we're not in any danger. Little to no danger. But our system is already active. Because are we truly in danger if we experience these triggers in our life, these perceived threats. So this filters through our painful past learning. So what is painful past learning? These are experiences that we've had that have left an impact, even subconsciously, as well as any trauma, adverse events, experiences we've gone through. This is, sometimes I just call it past learning. It doesn't always have to be painful. We take away, we're going through our life, we're always taking away information from all of our experiences. So this painful past learning is really where these triggers and these perceived threats come into play. Because if we go back over here, if we have never been attacked by a dog before, we might not perceive dogs as a threat. I feel very good about dogs. But my friend, for instance, can be terrified of dogs. What's the difference there? Well, friend has gone through an experience that has left an impact. Okay, so we can't change the past. We can't change what we've been through. But trauma, the premise of kind of what we're dealing with here, the nervous system, the reactions that we have, right? That is experienced through the present. It's not experienced in the past. It's based on the past and based on what we've experienced, but we're actually re-experiencing things in our present. So this also means that we have the opportunity to heal in the present. So we can heal the things that we've been through by being in the present and doing work in the present. Okay, so when we heal, we develop our lifelong skills to self-regulate instead of being hijacked. We are able to act in alignment with our intention, very important. We are not being activated by that painful past learning or trauma like we've been activated before. And our ability to handle life's ups and downs is increased. So, how can we do this? Well, of course, the nervous system, I mentioned that. This is really the root of the work for us. So we have our autonomic nervous system, and this controls automatic functions for our survival. So things like constricting or dilating our pupils, increasing or decreasing our heart rate, contracting or relaxing our bladder. These things are really important for our survival. And these are all functions of our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system. So we have three parts. We have the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and the enteric. And what we're going to talk about is our parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Now, our parasympathetic nervous system is this rest and digest portion of our nervous system. So I like to think of it as a light switch. When we are experiencing one state, we're not experiencing the other state. So it's like that light switch. Is the light on or is the light off? So if we are being able to rest and digest, be cool, calm, collected, right? We're in this parasympathetic state. Our sympathetic nervous system is more like a leopard or a jaguar running away. Survival. So survival is activated. So what are we learning with our sympathetic nervous system? What are we experiencing rather is our muscles are constricted because we need to move. We're going to go into that fight or flight. We got to do something. So we have this energy, this activation. When we are in this state, we don't really need to be eating cereal on the couch. we need to be running away. Okay, so our brain, during these perceived threats, this stuff that we have been through and the stuff that comes up and really acts as a trigger in our daily life, our brain is kind of offline, certain parts of our brain, because our protection system is activated. So we don't need to do algebra at this time. We need to activate the lizard brain where we are keeping ourselves safe, we are making decisions, we are not focused on making a list of what we need to pack for vacation next week. Our logic, our reasoning is kind of going offline. We have this active fear center. Our impulse control and even our executive functioning is impaired. So it's not acting optimally. So let's get the balance right. Because of course, everything is not always sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. Of course, we are going to have experiences. We all have experiences that are going to impact us. We're taking away something from those experiences, and we have these things that trigger us, and that's okay. It's not that we want to make our lives smaller by always avoiding our triggers, right? This is where some people can even kind of start developing these disorders because it's like, oh no, outside's scary, I'm going to stay inside, and then they're not leaving their house, right? So we don't want to make our life smaller. We do want to get the balance right of being able to really have good functioning and a good life, even in the midst of things that have been difficult or hard or get us off track. Okay, so the window of tolerance is a really appropriate thing for us to learn about right now because this was coined in 1999 by Dan Siegel, and it's the window of tolerance is a really interesting concept for us to understand and relate within our own lives for. I want to ask you this question. Have you ever had the same experience but two different reactions? I can relate to this. This is a definite yes for me. I can think of specific examples in my life where maybe with my child, for instance, I have the same experience. It's on a good day for me, feeling okay, same experience, same behavior on a different day, on a really challenging day. Maybe I haven't had enough sleep. Maybe I'm not, I've got a lot going on. The experience, my reaction is different, okay? That's an example of that fluctuating window of tolerance and where we are in that window of tolerance. So what I like to think of is this graphic here that I made for you, which is this window. It is within this window is our capacity to respond to life. We have ups and downs, ebbs and flows throughout our day, throughout our life, throughout our months. It's basically the window of tolerance is that zone of functioning, and it's based on arousal or stimulation. So another way to say this is, how are we coping with stress? Are we doing really good with our stress levels? Are we feeling like we have the capacity for it, or have we popped out of the window? So when we are in our window of tolerance, we can easily recover from a stress or demand placed on us. That's what we call just stimulation or arousal. We can easily recover. We're able to manage our emotions and reactions with little effort. It doesn't feel so hard. Life just feels easier. We're having a good day, right? That's when we are in our window of tolerance. we begin to experience dysregulation when we pop out of that window on either side. So when we're out of our window of tolerance, we're feeling overwhelmed, we're unable to cope with stressors or demands, our fuse is shorter, we're not clear-headed, our prefrontal cortex is offline. So that impulse control, that executive functioning control, that is diminished when we're outside our window of tolerance. So we can look at the two sides of this. So if we pop out on the top, let's say, we're experiencing this hyper arousal. At the bottom is this hypo arousal. So hyper, you think of fast, anxiety, agitation, anger, feeling out of control, really having that fight or flight response. Hypo, we think of that like slow down a little bit, that more of that freeze response. We might feel exhausted. We might have a lack of motivation. This is where we also begin to start feeling depressed, dissociated, shut down, and that freeze response, like I mentioned. So on either side, doesn't matter what side you're on, and I hear from people in my community, and they say, well, I experienced both of these, kind of like everywhere. Very common, right? It doesn't matter. We're outside the window of tolerance. So our window of tolerance varies based on different situations, circumstances. It can be influenced and has been influenced throughout your lifetime. Family support, childhood experiences, adverse events, trauma, and upbringing, all of those can impact our window of tolerance. Our environment, for me, overstimulation is a big one. Those can impact our window. Triggers and trauma can push us out of our window because we have that reaction. It's like this tangible reaction that we're experiencing. So where do we go from here? So if it's our nervous system's job to keep us safe, then let's work with that. We can create that safety. We can have our nervous system believe this new version of our present reality. We're not going to see danger when there is none. So we're diminishing that fear center and that reaction. So we can do that. Our painful past learning is like this virus on our computer. So the virus gets activated and then it defaults to a specific code, right? So it's just like, it just happens. The code is our triggered response, our automatic reaction. So our threat response is activated. We're perceiving danger. That's what we need to, number one, really understand for ourselves. When we begin to feel the activation, somewhere along the lines, we are perceiving danger from something, some sensory input, from what we see, from what we hear, from what we smell, right? From what we touch. So we're having this threat response. We're perceiving danger. Our nervous system is activated. We are out of our window of tolerance. So let's interrupt that. So interrupting our threat response. I love this quote. If you've been with me before in other presentations, you've likely heard this before because we include it. Forward Facing Institute, we include it. This is by Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor. And he has this famous quote here: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, this is a really good quote to kind of wrap up what we're trying to do here, because we can think about, okay, if we break this down between stimulus and response, between stress or trigger and reaction, there is a space. That's the space where we get to choose how to be. That's the space. Because how we choose to be is where we can really have a lot of growth, a lot of freedom, a lot of pride in how we are. We're going to look back and feel so good about our lives and who we are and what we've done, right? In our response. So we want to be able to work with this. So we create this space that he's talking about, from stress or trigger to reaction, automatic reaction, that little space that we have. We create that with self-regulation. Okay. So self-regulation is our ability to manage disruptive emotions and impulses arising from those emotions. Basically, it's our ability to manage ourselves and our systems, right? Our ability to actually take in, okay, like, I'm going to have a pause here, or I'm going to activate my parasympathetic nervous system instead of letting my sympathetic take the lead here, right? We're able to really hone in there. So a skill that I think all of us need to remember is, this one's called PBR. And I love this because PBR, when I was in college, was like a really big thing. So it's easy for me to remember. So PBR, pause, breathe, relax your body. Okay, that's a very tangible thing that you can do throughout your day that will help you reach that regulated state. You're going to pause, breathe, relax. What are we doing there when we do that? We're self-regulating, and we're flipping the switch with our nervous system. So if you have this trigger, and instead of instantly going to this reaction, pause, breathe, relax, PBR. Then our parasympathetic nervous system comes back online with our brain and our reasoning and our logic and all the good things, so that we can continue down the path of intentional living for ourselves, the alignment that we're trying to reach. So this means healing and creating a new level of safety for ourselves, so we're not a prisoner of the past. Because quite honestly, that's what's happening when we are having these triggers and these things that are showing up in our life. We are acting out from these past experiences. And I don't know about you, but I don't love living in the past. We want to be able to forge a new path forward for ourselves that feels really good, that's in line with our core values, our belief system, helps us feel good about what we're doing in our life, doesn't harm other people with snarky comments or things that we wish we didn't do, right? So we don't want to be a prisoner of our past. So this is a bottom-up approach. So the bottom-up approach works first on the body's feeling and state. So you're going to get more in tune with yourself, your feelings, your physical state. And then we can begin to see how our cognition is affected by that state of dysregulation. So we begin to have this really important awareness. Are you going to get it right tomorrow? Probably not. Are you going to self-regulate one time and all your worries are going to go away? No, absolutely not, right? Pause, breathe, relax. That's just one skill of many skills that we can use to self-regulate. And we're going to have to do it throughout our day for a while. Often. We're going to have to do it often for us to really dissolve this painful past learning and really help this system, the holistic system, to start to begin to accept that we're not in danger. So our healing is so powerful when we can cultivate safety within ourselves. Okay. This is the cheat code for our system. Coming back, I mean, if we look at this holistically, if we look at what's the process here? Okay, we have this trigger. We have this space. That's the cheat code right there, is utilizing self-regulation within that space so that we're activating the other branch of our nervous system so we're not just, bam, off track, immediately off track. We want to be able to stay on track. How can we stay on track? Well, for the skill that I taught you in this one, pause, breathe, relax. Then we're able to stay on track. Are we going to do it perfectly every time? No, we're not. Are we going to stay more on track than we've ever been able to? Yes, we will. We're going to have to do it for a while, and a lot. I'm not here to be delusional about what this requires of you. But this self-regulation and what we can use in that space, that is the cheat code. What does that let us do? Lets us be intentional, lets us be authentic, lets us be making good choices, right? So when our body is regulated, when our nervous system is out of the stress response, back into the window of tolerance, when we're feeling like we can cope with things again, right? For us, a good example I think of sometimes is like when we come back from that walk, and we're like, I just need a walk right now. Then we come back, feel better. We're able to get the cognitive parts of the brain back online. That's a really good thing for us. We want to have our whole brain back online. We don't want to be just operating out of the fear center. So it's like we can see clearly now. The rain is gone. Okay, so to recap and just simplify this here. Our painful past learning shows up in our present day because this is the only experience that we are currently living in. The only experience. The triggers that show up for us are the messengers of, hey, we have work to do. We are perceiving a threat here. We may not know why, we might not understand it, but that's what's happening. Trauma and the experiences that we've been through, middle school, and someone yelling at us, and being flipped off in traffic, right? These things drive our nervous system dysregulation. Doesn't matter if it's anxiety or being fully checked out, feeling exhausted, right? We're experiencing this dysregulation. So when we're able to get back into a regulated state regularly, often, we are actually discharging the energy from those prior experiences. So we're discharging the energy and we're creating safety that we need in order to really move past this. So when we're able to regulate, we're able to be intentional. When we can be intentional, we can live life on our own terms, right? We are authentically aligned. Okay. The bottom line is we're no longer hijacked by our past and our system can heal. That's a beautiful thing. A lot of people really need this work. I know I did, for sure, and I continue to do so as well. I practice what I preach. I don't always get it right, but I practice what I preach. So we're not hijacked from the triggers and the things that is based on a lifetime of experiences. We're able to discharge that energy. When we can do that, then it loses its potency for us. Okay. I would love to know what you can take action on today, because we covered a lot. This sounds simple, and honestly, it is simple, but it is not easy. So I would love to hear from you. Is there something you can take action on when you think back to what we covered here, even if it is as simple as PBR, pause, breathe, relax. The next time you are perceiving a threat, let me know. Put PBR in the chat if you're down to try it, to practice it, to learn from it, or if there's something else you can take action on. And if you need further support, I told you I'd give you a couple ways to be connected with me. I have one-on-one coaching available. Typically, my spots are pretty limited with that. That's not a sales pitch. That's just based on my schedule. But please reach out if you are looking for that. If I don't have room in my schedule, I can refer you to people who practice the same way as I do, or figure some resources out for you to help. I do workplace wellness workshops. So if you have a team or a group who could benefit from learning things within this world, I'd be happy to see about working together. Connect with me on LinkedIn, tinyurl.com/Michelle on LI for the link to my profile. Send me a friend request. And stay in touch by email. If you'd like, I have an email list, so you'll hear workshops that are happening. You'll hear about podcasts that are happening as well on the Flourish podcast. So you can grab you can get on my list by going to flourishbymichelle.com/list. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this was helpful and valuable to you. Please let me know if you need anything, if I can help you on your own journey. I would love to. And I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.